Cities and metropolitan areas take leadership and they innovate
more
to
than
solve
half the world's population.
So cities are extremely important to how national economies succeed.
Cities around the world are facing social, economic, political, and environmental changes. At times, these changes are so radical that unless policymakers know how to deal with them, the consequences can be severe. The World Bank Institute provides platforms to educate and train policymakers, world leaders, and private sector practitioners so that they are able to deal with these very changes. Today, the World Bank Institute launches a new initiative where city leaders from around the world and private sector practitioners come together in Washington, D.C. to learn from each other how to make their cities engines of economic growth.
We obviously meet at a critical moment for our cities and our world, a moment when the challenges our cities face are only matched by the opportunities that they offer.
For the first time in history, more than half the world's population will reside in cities. Majority of the wealth is created in cities that now account for 70% of global GDP. The first way in which we want to help address these challenges is by connecting city practitioners to one another.
Cities strained on energy, cities drowning in solid waste. I used to work on Cairo, so incredible asthma rates amongst children under 5.
Yes, please, the Deputy Mayor.
Lack of microfinancing credit facilities to the people at the bottom of the pyramid. They are unskilled and they rely on doing small businesses.
Senegal is a country of immigration. The populations in Dakar used to live on tourism and fishing, but this resource is drying up.
How do you truly create a city which is smart, which is responsive to the new generation? And we want to come out with sustainable and innovative solutions for practitioners.
We really got to start thinking about these economic models not in terms of the trade-offs, within the immediate future and bringing in business, et cetera. We have to look at what is the sustainable issue in terms of maintaining that economy.
In trying to clean up the city and trying to make people not throw their garbage into the river and throw garbage everywhere, we introduced a candy which we call the Clean and Green Candy. And we gave this candy to every child in the public schools during flag ceremony. And we raised the candy up and said, okay, what did the mayor say? He says, okay, little litter, put it in your pocket. Okay, again, little litter, put it in your pocket. So the litter is your responsibility.
This is what we call about the carbon financing, or the stimulus packages that are devoted to green-collar economies, to green-collar jobs. That kind of financing, especially with institutions like the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank, or the UN, can really start to stimulate cities to divert their traditional economic growth models into a more ecologically sound one.
The nature of the problems are so complex that no one agency can deal with it.
We're going to begin with Relina Bulkandani from Cisco.
And what we realized is there are individual silos of energy, public sector services, real estate, and transportation, but they're not talking to each other. And we believe fundamentally the network as a platform, almost like the fourth essential utility in city building, is what's going to get cities to the next level.
What we're learning, though, is when you figure out a good space in these public-private partnerships is the poor get pushed out.
they're the first ones to go. Carbon finance, everyone sits around, develops these cool methodologies for the poorest people, and then before you know it, big companies have it and the poor get scooped away. And so we're really thinking hard about how can we come up with new creative ideas where the poor can still keep that seat at the table.
We had a very successful slum upgradation program with the municipal corporation where the community, the Seva Bank, the Mahila Housing Trust and the municipal corporation have partnered to reach basic services at the doorstep level to the poor. About 12,000 families have already been reached.
The slum networking project. Slum networking project is nothing but networking the city infrastructure to slums. City infrastructure would include water, sanitation, solid waste management, street lighting, streets, that kind of infrastructure under a partnership approach. This project gave us the first international award by UN Habitat.
Which really shows how much the poor are capable of handling their own life and their own work environment if we give them an opportunity.
Large-scale investment in infrastructure. I think this is the main feature throughout China's development ever since 1949.
Mass transit systems have significantly improved and have created development along the lines. You can take San Diego for that, you can take Portland for that, you can take Salt Lake City or Denver for that. Even Houston, I mean, there was such a public outcry of putting a public transit system into Houston, and now these trains are so full and so jammed that they now build 5 lines more.
The other aspect to think about when you think about infrastructure is what I think of climate resilience. With the coming impacts of climate change, it's going to be more severe, it's going to be more frequent. How do you make your infrastructure resilient?
Please. The national governments are pinched, the city governments are pinched, private capital is hesitant. We haven't really talked a lot about this, and I'm a bit surprised actually that it hasn't come up in a big way, that one of the city leaders says, we're really broke.
Mass transit creates tremendous value growth in the real estate. There are ways that this whole system can become self-financing.
I agree with the comment down here that we've been doing work on value recapture around some of our new transit lines, and it's no question that these things more than pay for themselves and increase property values.
We've already been capturing the water through rainwater harvesting, or we've been already limiting the pollution levels. That decreases our cost automatically.
Using those things to generate investment and to create value, rather than this idea that somehow there's going to be more capital around.
This isn't something that you do once and then say, well, we've got this ready, we're a smart city and so forth. That in fact, every city has to continually reinvent itself.
It's at the top of the pyramid, it's at the bottom of the pyramid. So the question is really, how do we unleash the tremendous creativity and leadership that exists in cities?
All the ITC companies, information communication technologies, Nokia, and Ericsson are really using this area to test new technologies, but rather than saying we're guessing at it, they've actually made a deal with the housing people who live in that community, and those are people who are a voluntary test bed to test all these things. And this is a new form of citizen participation. They're not being asked their opinion, they are co-inventors.
Saying smart cities, again we always say, unless until the citizens get a pride in their city, cities cannot become smart, because people will come from outside, they will stay as outside and go back.
Successful metropolitan areas do need an identity, they do need a culture, they need an energy, they need a distinctiveness, they need a personality.
It is the inclusiveness, this feeling of goodwill, the feeling of rejoicing, the feeling of pride, much beyond the indicators we talk about. The sense inside us that a city is an expression of our creative soul.
We heard today that cities are places where problems and solutions meet, and where also a demographic and economic transformation is taking place. And if we don't seize the moment now, then we would really have lost the development agenda.